is in fact 8 feet tall. You have not met him in person yet, have you?
No, I'm
he's
just like
as large as that screen right there, actually.
really excited for Take Your Child to Work Day when I get to stand next to him.
He's the human equivalent of Ivern. That's why it's between two Iverns.
Oh, okay.
Ender is Ivern incarnate. All right, well, enough about our soon-to-be comrade over here in the LEC. Let's look ahead towards our first game, Schalke versus Origen, with the #2 team in EU looking to continue their solid form. Now, Frostgurren, you had a lot of things to say about this team, so hit us with them.
I mean, where do you want to start? If you want to go early game, you grab Memento and Ignar, the jungle duo. They have incredible jungle proximity, and they are in charge of every single roaming play. They constantly unlock Ignar from that lane and get him involved. If you want to go mid-game, grab Abadage and Ottawamne. Not only do they have incredible forward percentage in their lanes and can smash lane phase, their team fighting is incredible. And speaking of incredible team fighters, if you want to go late game, you then have Upset, probably the most mechanically talented ADC performing in the league right now.
And if you just take out G2, this is hands down the best team in the LEC. But obviously you have to take out G2. But you want to talk about one more thing that they've got going for them, and it is highlight reels. And for that, we have to look at our boy Ignar pulling out the Blitzcrank yesterday. Such an incredible game, an incredible, it's just such a return to form. It's exactly what European fans thought would happen when he came back. I didn't know if it was going to happen, but it just did.
And it's also the confidence, you know, to pick a pick like Blitzcrank, especially against his former team, his former partner in crime in Hansama, and it looked like a targetable ability. That's a skill shot. He found Hansama every single time. Gorilla giving him the buy one, get one free on that delivery right there. But ultimately, Ignar, to have that confidence is kind of like the cherry on top for Schalke. It's not only that they know that they're good, but then they'll play like they know that they're good.
And honestly, we're just lucky he's playing League of Legends and not CS, because that boy would be snapback banned the second he busted out that Blitzcrank on any server. Well, if we look at their opponents, Origen have shown some promise lately. Granted, against some of those weaker opponents, it hasn't been the clearest cut road for Origen, but we did see improvement yesterday.
And frankly, Origen should have been a similar story as Schalke. I think a lot more people were high on this roster just because there should have been a lot more inbuilt synergy with all of these veteran names kind of stacking back together and so much money and power put into the infrastructure. And frankly, it's an execution issue. The only people that Origen have been playing are themselves. The blueprint is starting to get ironed out. It's getting a little bit more crisp, a little bit cleaner. Some of those solo and isolated deaths are starting to come down, but Origen need to continue with their momentum, turn the page, and start proving to people that they can be excited about this EU sweetheart team.
And now, of course, one thing that you can be kind of looking forward to is that Origen did have a weaker opponent yesterday. You can hope that they've maybe done some special prep for Schalke today, that they have a way to attack. You have former Schalke coach Andre on stage going up against them. Maybe he has some insight that can help dismantle this new roster, but there's no doubt that it is a bit Schalke favored. Now, the top lane matchup, though, is one area where it could potentially turn. Alphari versus Ottawamne, and Alphari is the guy that I want to start with here because he has been stepping up recently. It was a rough start from the season, but it feels like he's finally starting to get back into that form that we know from him.
And it was kind of that Kennen game. A little bit questionable on some of the plays, but he just needs to find that consistency. But that's what you want. Alphari is supposed to be this hard carry-oriented, laning top laner. And against Ottawamne, who's also currently in form, I think this is where everything needs to start for Origen. I want to see them go back to playing cold Alphari, focus up into the top side, and setting him up for success.
And I just want to see that focus, and I think that's the important thing that you highlighted. So they want to see them pick a lane. For me, I agree with you. I want to see Alphari as well. But as long as Origen is busting out some kind of consistent strategy, I think fans can be optimistic that this team can do more and that they can show us more. Of course, on the opposite side, Ottawamne is an incredible story because if you looked at this guy back during his time on Splyce, it was very, very different. You look at the stats on your screen. Of course, the one I want to point out to you immediately, Frostgurren, is forward percentage. This man was playing back, he was playing tanks, he was getting beaten in every laning phase, and now he spends 40% of his time past that halfway mark, ready to push anybody under their tower.
I mean, you said it. The key word there is tanks. This is a meta difference between Otto. Otto is finally unlocked in a meta to shine, and I said it yesterday, and I'll repeat it today. Urgot as a priority pick is so high value right now on 9.2, but it doesn't mean as much if Schalke give it away because of Otto's pocket picks like that Kennen, like the Jace, these range champions that compete with Urgot in the top lane. It gives Schalke a very definitive edge, and if they do want to grab the Urgot and give it to him, I have no doubt that Otto can perform on the champion.
And now what I want to see, though, is the draft, because we continue to talk about this as we see top-of-the-table contenders about how they can approach draft, how some of these individual advantages can make their draft so much easier. So if we're talking about top lane, is there anything Alphari can do to stop the currently the revitalized Ottawamne, the revived, the rebirth of Ottawamne I think we see in the top lane.
I mean, first and foremost, Alfari, back to basics. Just go back to being that lane god that you were once known for. Clean it up, tighten it up, don't fall down in lane phase, and let Odo walk all over you. Once you have that locked down, I would like to see him plug more into the 2v2 and top side, because something that's so potent and powerful about Schalke is that Odo creates his own leads, and then their ability to 1-3-1 and split up a map. They'll team fight you, they'll side lane you, they can do it all. Alfari needs to be the first break on stopping that if Origen want to have a chance in this game.
And interestingly enough, with Origen coming through in this game, I think the other match that we have to shift to that's supporting this that you've now brought up is Cold versus Memento. And Memento has been very active in the early game, and it feels like Cold on the Nunu is still struggling to find some of that footing. When we look at the 2v2, when we get out of just this 1v1 capacity, do you feel like that's somewhere that Origen can shift the advantage, or does that still go in the favor of Schalke?
It almost feels that Origen are still kind of figuring out where to plug Cold in. Again, we've seen so many different looks from Origen. If they're going to prioritize top side, bot side, maybe they're giving counter pick to Nuke Duck and letting him run over a lane with Vayne in the mid lane or something like that. Whatever their plan is that they want to execute on, it does start with Cold, whereas with Schalke, it seems a much cleaner and more crisp blueprint. You know that Memento is going to be a high proactive jungler with Ignar, and he's going to start setting up kind of roaming vision plays, contesting jungle, making sure that they have high impact champions and will snowball anywhere.
Well, I'm excited to see exactly how it unfolds, but for more on the top lane matchup, let's check in with Quickshot and Schalke's Ottawamne.
Thank you very much. Joined by Ottawamne just before they're playing against Origen. Now, before I get to the matchup, Odo, I want to talk a little bit about your play on Schalke. We've been talking on broadcast a lot around how it just feels like you're in a meta and with a team that allows you to play carries all the time. Is that true? Is that something as a team you've planned, or has it just ended up that way?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's a meta, because if you look at the place where I came from, Splyce, he's still kind of stuck on tank duty. So maybe if I was still there, I would still be stuck on tank duty and I wouldn't be playing as good. But I think it's mostly just kind of like a team thing, because I feel like our identity as a team is kind of pretty loose. We're all really aggressive players and everyone kind of like knows his job, and we don't need to coordinate that much, just because I feel like everyone knows what he needs to do. So I feel like I'm in the position where no matter what I play, it's easy in game to adapt. Like everyone adapts to like what I can do and what my role is. So even if, say, I would switch to a tanking position again, it wouldn't really be that hard to coordinate, It's just like the stuff.
Would you go back to tanks? Because I don't believe you would.
I mean, if it's really needed, I would, but I would rather not, just because I don't know, I just feel so much more comfortable on carries now, especially in this team, just because I feel like there's not a lot of stress on me, like it was in Splyce that I needed to perform. And if in Splyce I felt like if I wasn't the person that was going to do something, like make a play or something, no one would. So even when I was playing tanks or carries, like I would int it super hard, just because there were a lot of things that I needed to focus on. While in Schalke, it's just I can even play a carry and get carried, and I can. There's some games where I just sit in my lane, and I don't need to do anything, and the team will carry me, and it's just good because I don't need to stress about things like that, and I'm just comfortable, I can do my own thing.
You guys are currently considered by many to be the second best team in the league right now. So let's just assume you're going to beat Origen. The question I have for you is, in how many minutes will it take you to take down Origen?
Origen? Less than 25.
Less than 25. Thank you very much, Odo. Best of luck with the game.
Thank you.
Less than 25 minutes to defeat Origen. That would be a very strong performance from Schalke. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined by Dan Foxdrop Wyatt for the first games of the day today. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to the games.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's
They're going
good.
to be some bangers.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one,
Potential
actually. Potential upsets.
Well, there's definite upset over there, but outside of that, there are some potential.
So would you count this game as one of your potential upsets?
It could be 100%. Like I think that Origen, they stand a chance. I mean, Schalke are a very good team. But let's not write Origen off just yet.
Okay, and if Origen were to upset Schalke,
yes,
how would they do that? What is their game plan coming in?
Well, that's a very good question. It depends a lot on the draft. But I think that Origen individually do have some very talented teammates. Nuke Duck was very good last year, Cold as well, Alfari. And if these guys can actually just kind of increase their individual performances a little bit, maybe a bit more reliability in there.
So you're saying they need to get good?
No, you said that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm not getting in any trouble today. I'm a good boy. But no, I think, especially in that early game, if Cold can unlock his laners, do some things around that, then Origen definitely stand a good chance.
We'll keep our eyes on the jungler for Origen. Already bans coming out. Schalke on the blue side, Origen on the red. Draven, Cassiopeia removed by Schalke, and Origen have taken away the Akali pick.
I think that the Urgot is going to be, I mean, Urgot's always high priority, but I think both these teams will want to play Urgot, so it just depends whether we'll see Origen as that last ban, because I think Odoamne and Alpha are both good on that champion.
I totally agree with you. It's actually going to be Schalke who ban it out, so not wanting to take that across to Odoamne. There's the Lucian ban as well, so we are starting to sit down towards that sort of second tier of champions, the champion we've seen more this week than in weeks prior. Sylas is available.
He is available, has been traditionally run into the Urgot. We saw that twice yesterday, and good old Papa Smithy, the daddy of Korean League of Legends, was saying that Sylas is actually picked to run into Urgot specifically. Good lane matchup. Froscorin also talked a little bit about that, about how it's hard for you to get executed because you've got that good self-sustain. And a very nice ultimate to steal, but obviously Urgot off the board today, so we'll see whether that limits Sylas's playability. But even right away, Alessandra ult, if you want to steal that, that's not a bad one to take either.
Definitely quite an impactful ultimate to have on your side. There's the Kalista. We saw Patrick bring that out just last week. That was one of the games that they won, actually. Last week, I think it's their second game of the week. Alongside that, you usually look at things like Alistar, Thresh to team up in that bottom lane. Morgana can work out pretty well with it as well.
You want a support that you can just throw in there so that you have good synergy with your ulti. And if you're Schalke looking at this draft, the best early game AD carries are off the board here in Draven and Lucian, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Kai'Sa being picked up by Upset. He also loves the Ezreal, so one of those two champions, if they don't pick it, in this phase right here, is almost guaranteed to be the two bans from Origen, I would imagine. So I'm expecting to see the Kai'Sa or the Ezreal coming through here. I think both of those champs are good into the Kalista and Alistar as well.
Well, I have to see if Upset does put his priority on towards that Ezreal. Has only played the Ezreal and the Kai'Sa so far this split, so anything else would be an aberration from the norm.
Could be the Ez Tahm Kench as well. Like, just keep. I mean, Ez doesn't really need that protection as much, so that's why you're. Well, I just don't want to say anything until this, because I really want this to be locked in again.
About whatever else you want to talk about.
Ez Tahm Kench is one of those really powerful duos, and it's very good against heavy engage, and you know, you got Alistar right there, so I think if we were to see that, that would not be a bad choice. As it stands.
Not going to see the Blitzcrank just quite yet. Camille, instead, the lock-in for Memento, teamed up with something like the Sandra, who can dive that backline. So incredibly powerful. And you can lock up the Kalista a little bit as well, because if you put her in the box, she can't then jump out of it. Absolutely, and this is now dependent on the rest of Origen's draft to try and protect that Kalista from the Camille. This is patch 9.2, not 9.3, which is live, or you'll be playing at home. Kalista is still a decent jungler. The verdict is still out whether or not she's a good jungler in the next patch, because she did receive a nerf. Yeah. Did I say Kalista? You did say Kalista. I did not mean Kalista. I meant Camille. But yeah, Camille, really good. Memento really enjoys playing this champion as well. Great early game pressure too. Going to be answered with that Sejuani for Cold. I like the Sejuani pick. I think it gives you a relatively beefy front line alongside the Alistar, and then the pick potential from, you know, a Kalista ultimate into a Glacial Prison as well coming out from the Sejuani does work out pretty well. It's really versatile is what I like about it. You know, you can play it as a initiator and slide into these offensive team cons, but you can also play it as more of like a protector style champion. So I think it is a good jungler just to pick up if, I mean, a one-size-fits-all kind of guy. Go. Brittle's probably a boy. Oh, you don't know? That's what I was talking about. I have no idea. Either way, I was not a vet. No, you're a doctor, not a vet. Can't identify the boar's gender, I'm afraid. Gragas is the lock away here from Origen towards Ignar. Gragas, of course, a good matchup into the Alistar in that bottom lane. There's the Syndra ban against Nukeduck as well. Morgana banned against Ignar. And now, I wonder where Schalke will go with this next ban, because you're looking at that mid lane pool and thinking, what's good into Lissandra? What do I want to pinch away? Yeah, so this is one of those situations where LeBlanc often gets banned here, but you will not see that because Lissandra is so good into LeBlanc that if Origen picked it, it would be... I mean, Nukeduck is Nukeduck, right? He just plays what he wants to play. But you probably won't see it this time being still left up on the board. We might get that blind pick cannon here. It is going to be blind cannon. Okay, so both solo lanes are still available here for Origen, so if they want to flex cannon, they can.
but traditionally we usually see that in the top side of the map.
Yeah, I don't really see Cannon mid that much anymore. I would like the rise here from Odoamne. He has played that already, the split, assuming that Lissandra's going to go towards the mid lane. You have quite a bit of attack damage, physical damage.
To get that kind of 2 items before he does something, and the new Ez is pretty good at scaling late game as well with the change to his W, and especially if you go for like that double tier build, when you have the Seraphs and then chucking a Gunblade in there as well. So we might actually see, as we were talking about before the draft went in, how Origen can win this game. If they can, they have good early game tools with the Kalista, with that Sejuani. Once they get to that level 6, if they want to start punishing Schalke on the map, then this is a good team comp to do it to. Oh, the Yasuo.
Bring out the Yasuo as well to round out that composition. So a lot of early damage there, and Yasuo, of course, looking for those 2 items. Phantom Dancer IE is what we tend to see from him. I was very intrigued by the Pike pick as well from Ignar. We were talking about how the Tarm Kench would have been very strong for them, but instead going for something a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, they're just there were 2 roads to walk down there. Either you want to go the more protective route against the Alistar and good synergy with the Ez in the Tarm Kench or something like that, or I personally prefer this because I think Ignar right now is performing right at the top of the supports. Like, I think he's one of the best supports in the EU, and he's really good on these aggressive playmaking champions. Yesterday he played that Blitzcrank, and Pike has similar mechanics to a Blitz, where you're kind of grabbing people and you're going for that aggressive play style. So we'll see whether Ignar, great success yesterday, whether he can do it again this week.
I think the mentality behind Pike and Blitz is very similar. You're trying to anticipate dodges, you're looking to see if you can land those hooks, as you say, and then trying to catch people out of position. I want to talk a little bit about compositional strengths. We talked about level 6 coming out from Origen, the power that they have when they hit that mark and how they want to play around the early game. Schalke, a little bit more scaling, but are Schalke going to be able to mitigate that early game weakness?
Well, that's why you pick the Camille, and this is what I think is really important if you're going to have scaling in your lanes, is you want to have a strong early jungler, because then you want to at least be able to have someone who's able to stabilize on the map. We have seen some team comps in the past where if you don't have that early jungle strength and you have losing lanes, that you kind of just roll over and die in the current meta, and you absolutely don't want to do that because that loses you League of Legends games, which surprisingly isn't good. So that this Camille, he can basically go anywhere. Like, it's if he wants to gank that Rise with the Rune Prison setup, that you can go mid lane with setup there, you can go bot lane with the Pike setup. So there's different things that that Memento can do, and we did talk about scaling being important, but it's not like Schalke are like just completely awful until 30 minutes.
They still have some power in the early game. You talk a lot about how Memento's there to kind of mitigate the weakness in the early game from Schalke. What are we looking at Cold to do then? How is he going to actually be able to utilize his team's early strength?
Well, early on, you just want to make sure that Camille isn't like level 2 taking over the game. So we'll see that a lot of that in the vision and the pathing from Cold, where he decides to start. Because in the actual 1v1, Sejuani isn't really that bad this early. Camille isn't known necessarily to just run at the enemy jungler and just completely take them down. There are some champions like that in the current meta that Sejuani absolutely will want to avoid, like the Zinzaos, the Kazakhs. But Camille isn't really one of those. So Cold, if he can spot out Memento, get to that level 6 point, then he will have that advantage. And then, once we reach that point, you can look for like first glacial prison on the map to be really impactful. And again, this is what's so cool about this game, is you're not limited to where you can go. You can go anywhere you want in this game.
Any map, any lane is gankable. We talked a lot about Analyst Desk talked a lot about the top lane matchup. Odoamne, who's had a very good start to the split against Alfari, who kind of struggled, but definitely had I really want some action to happen on the top side of the map, mostly because I just like action happening anyway. Amazing blows, a kiss to the fans. I feel it was directed at me.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been able to talk with Amazing.
I overheard him say that was deliberately aimed at you. Is not too shabby considering they imploded their roster in the off-season, upset the only returning member from last year's Schalke, which, honestly, even though they didn't go to Worlds, had a lot of success. They made the summer finals. They there's definitely big shoes for them to fill, and so far they're absolutely filling them. As we're getting this level 1 Alfari here, scouting out that tribe, but Schalke, they have a plan. They know what's up here.
Ignar has the hook, so he's waiting in the Baron pit. Looking for it. Bone Skewer comes out, pulls Alfari back. Avadaja gets the slow. Memento jumps in, but Alfari flashes away. And it's a good escape from Alfari, but incredible level 1 mindfulness from Schalke.
And that is the flash down from Kennen, which is very important when you're playing versus Camille. You want to have that flash because those early ganks, very, very powerful, very, very impactful. So gonna have to be careful. That was great. Did you see that water energy? They went down at
Perfect
exactly
timing.
the same time. Frame perfect.
So I feel better about it. I want to talk a little bit about lane priority and pushing lanes, because often when we discuss scaling, you tend to think that that lane's going to get pushed back and actually the enemy jungler is going to be able to invade. But looking at it, Abidaje should be able to push up the mid lane. Top lane should be pretty much in Oda1's favor now that that flash is burnt as well.
Yeah, honestly, the only lane that Schalke shouldn't be pushing that hard in is the bot lane. Because Pyke and Ez, especially early on before Ez gets that tier, and with Pyke being a melee champion, the only real threat that he has at this point is the threat to kill someone. And that's not to say that that is a limited threat, it's just that you're not going to be mindlessly pushing the minion wave down. And Origen already giving a lot of respect over to Schalke in these lanes, and we'll see whether the presence of Cold will be able to turn these ones around. And you really do want to have a Kalista be able to use this early game and to translate it into something in the mid, because she isn't as good at scaling. She's not going to be as good going into the late game as Ezreal pick will be.
And you see how important it is to keep track of the enemy junglers. Ignar actually leaving the lane, coming up here, checking both the blue and the Gromp to find exact timers on where Cold is likely to be on the map. They sacrifice a little bit of pressure in the lane, but Ignar comes back. And Ezreal is such a safe AD carry that you can do this pretty easily as a support.
And Upset is probably the best Ezreal in the LEC.
Yep.
It feels like he gets this champion a lot, considering just how good he is on it, and how Ez is arguably just one of the best AD carries just from a pure strength standpoint. So it's like you got a strong pick on someone who really knows how to play it, and you're going to have a situation where, surprise, surprise, he's going to perform well on it. So there is something, while we go into a cheeky little pause here.
Yeah, we just need to adjust the lights. I believe there's some glare on someone's screen, so we'll get that sorted out in just a second for these guys.
One of those lights are getting looked at. How about we take a look at more of this bot lane, specifically the summoner spells?
Yeah, I really wanted to bring attention to this, actually, because there's teleport on Ezreal, both supports playing Ignite, but you've got the heal on the Kalista, so a slight disparity there.
Slight disparity, and it means that if any all-ins happen, the advantage 100% over to Origen. However, if the all-in doesn't actually happen, you're much more likely to be able to have lane control, because you can get more favorable recalls and resets if you have that teleport, and you can utilize that teleport, and you can, just push a wave out, go back to base, buy your tier early, for example, and then get straight back into lane and not skip a beat.
That's the big thing with Ezreal, isn't it? You want the back timing either for the Sheen or for the tier, and then you can really take control of the lane, get scaling up, really just have a dominant laning phase, considering the fact that he is not the strongest early game champion in the game. But we are back on into the action, lights adjusted, everything sorted for these guys.
Does need a little bit of revving up, cheeky little headbutt pulverize, or nope, that's not the one. Yeah, it is the one.
Yeah, you're right.
That's weird. But outside of that, I really just think level 6 is going to be the point where real things happen, because then you do have the Kalista set up, you do have the Sejuani if Cold Runs will come down as well. Before that,
sorry, Phantom Undertow, and then gets the stun on you. So can be quite difficult to play that lane as an Alistar early on. In the top lane, actually evened out quite a bit. Alphari hasn't really been punished for losing his flash in the early game. It's about a 4-5 CS differential, but nothing too major. Interestingly, Alphari not running the Kleptomancy himself. Looks like Momento's going towards the mid lane for the first gank of the game. Nukeduck goes in, Abidaje locks him up, there's the cleanse, but Memento is here. Nukeduck just dodging through them, gets the knock up with a tornado. Should be able to get away. Good escape there from Nukeduck, only burns the cleanse.
Only burns the cleanse, which does have a pretty low cooldown, so not too bad there from Norwegian mid laner. Able to kind of get away with that one, you have to think, considering he had no one around him to help him, and just generally walks away from the gank. So good start for Origen.
I thought trading a little bit on towards Oda1 here, but nothing too much happening. We have seen Upset get that back time and teleported back into the lane now with a Sheen. Ignar coming up towards the mid lane, because down here, Phantom Undertow flashed away by Cold. And that is the Summoner spell burned, but once again, no one actually goes down.
Very important flash there by Cold. If he gets stunned, he will get comboed, and he will most likely give away first blood. One of the mistakes that you see a lot in solo queue is people use their flash to escape danger rather than prevent danger, and that is the example of why exactly you want to use it to prevent the danger. But really all this comes down to is the fact that Upset and Ignar are not playing constantly under their tower, and they're able to have this lane pressure, because that enables Ignar to leave the lane.
Cold's down here. Spotted on a ward, Mithy, looking for the knockup. Ignar there gets the stun onto Patrick, but now Cold is in the right place at the right time. Bowskewer comes back out. Mithy looking for the stun. Memento has to flash away, and Patrick and Cold doing quite a lot of work on that Schalke bottom lane.
That is Flash of Ignar, Flash from Memento, 2 summoners apiece, but Flash is arguably more important when you have the catch potential that Origen have.
That's what you're looking for now, right? You talked about the level 6, we're level 5 across the board, apart from Alphari and Nukeduck, so what we'll start to see is probably a back timer now, get that first part of an item, and then build up towards a repeat bottom lane gank onto Ignar if you can get it.
And this time as well is quite important for Cole to show in that bot side, because Patrick really, really wants to recall. Because don't forget, the fact that he has heal and Upset has that teleport, Upset's already had a recall, he's already had a base, he's got that Sheen, which means that unless Patrick can get a good recall here, he's going to be playing at an item disadvantage, which obviously you don't want to do because that sets you behind. So they get that gank, which enables them to just push the minion wave in, get a good reset for Patrick, and he's bought his Berserker Greaves and a longsword, probably going into that Blade Room King.
Unable to quite find the connection there in the middle lane, but
Flash again.
Abadage had to burn his flash, as you say, yeah, and this is good from Origen. The thing we wanted from them was early game pressure, try and play around the level 6, they're almost there, and if you can then accelerate the game from there, that's when you start looking at can Origen take down Schalke.
Well, this is it. Well, the next minute, 2 minutes is going to be really important, and Cold right now is kind of on the hot seat because there are 3 flashes down on Schalke, 2 of those coming from laners. And so Cole is now going to ask himself, all right, I need to capitalize on this. We've got to punish this. Schalke is a team that plays very intelligently, and they're extremely good going into the mid and late game. I believe Frost even pegs them as the best team fighting team in Europe.
Yep.
So you don't really want to take it that late. So this is it. This is your window here. See if you can use those flashes. See if you can set up with your teammates. Don't forget Patrick now has hit that level 6. We're talking about that as well. And we might just see something going down soon.
No monumental gold lead between the 2 teams. Always interesting to point out, Upset on the Ezreal has Kleptomancy. It's about 200 gold ahead or so, which isn't absolutely massive, but it's still, you know, it's something in your back pocket. Every little helps.
Every little helps. And that's why you often see Cannon Top take their Kleptomancy as well. Not this game, but just Klepto in general. It's you sacrifice the strength of having a keystone in order to get a little bit more gold in the lane phase.
So Nukeduck's going to get a bit of damage onto Abadage here. Cold is actually going to come across looking for that Glacial Prism, but the path comes out from Abadage, and I want to just highlight the vision that Origen have started to establish for themselves. There's control ward in here, there's control ward in that picture bush. If we bring it down, there's a control ward even further down as well. This is trying to open up that bottom side of the map for Cold. This is where he should be looking for ganks now.
Yep, and still that flash down on Ignar, so he kind of a slippery target because you do have Phantom Undertow?
Phantom Undertow, yeah.
Beautiful stuff. You do have that ability where it just slithers away from you and then it goes into stealth and gets that huge move speed increase. But it's very hard to run away from a Glacial Prison, a Pulverize, the knockup from Callista. Like, it doesn't matter how slippery you are, if you get caught and you have no flash, you will fall down. And here he is, he's snaking his way into that bot lane.
Snaking it down there.
Ooh.
Memento here as well. Maybe Origen can go for something a little bit further, but they're not so far ahead that they can take a disadvantageous engage.
Right, but if they get the jump, then they will come out ahead. And if Memento is here, again, he has no flash either. He has his hook shot, so that is his way to disengage. But again, if you lock someone down, then he's not exactly the tankiest champion in the game, especially right now where he has 0 defensive items. Later on, we'll be picking up that Sterix most likely, and maybe the Guardian Angel, but in this early game, very vulnerable, and Origen not able to find themselves the kill, but they will translate this pressure that they're able to get themselves this vision advantage into an objective in that bot side in that Cloud Dragon.
Schalke ceding any control over that bottom side. Whether the Cloud Dragon goes over to Origen, not the dragon you really want, but a little bit of extra movement speed, especially when you're looking at an Alistair engage potential, does help out.
I think Kennen plus Cloud is really underrated combo, because you already have the Lightning Rush, and then you just have a little bit more move speed, and it all comes down to whether you can just get on top of a team and stay on top of a team with your ultimate down as Kennen. We kind of saw that actually yesterday when Werlib and SK, he picked that Kennen and wasn't really able to find any great Kennen ultis, and a lot of that just comes down to if people get out of the ring, out of the maelstrom, then what you got?
Exactly.
Nothing. So Cloud helps with a little bit of that, and we'll see as well as the game goes on how Yasuo can utilize that against the Rise if they decide to match those two up against each other in that split push.
Pretty even across the board for these 2 teams. We said that we wanted to see a little bit more out of Origen around the level 6 mark. Haven't really seen them totally utilize their advantage or their ability advantage at the level 6. But now we do see Ignite getting in towards this side of the jungle. Memento here as well with a hookshot, doesn't land it, but there is the Hexagon Domain. Ignite coming down as well, and Nukeduck with the cleanse flash away. Engaged in the bottom lanes, upset, jumped on by Mythy, stunned up, easy enough kill for Patrick, he rends him down. It's all off the back of Nukeduck making a great play in the mid lane and surviving.
And that is the punishment from Schalke of sending Ignite away from Upset. Ignite goes for that dive in the mid lane, is unsuccessful, but it leaves Upset extremely vulnerable by himself in that bot lane, and he's not able to keep himself safe, and Origen punish him for it.
Abadage now on the wrong side of the rift, caught in this blue side jungle. Nukeduck on his way across as well. The Glacial Path will get Abadage underneath the towers, maybe looking for the execute here. Not sure if he's taken any damage yet. Takes 3 tower shots, but Nukeduck still on the chase. Does have to be a little bit cautious. Abadage pops the blast cone.
Was that his only way out?
Yeah, that's not how you get out of that. Last blood comes out. Brodobelt still just running away, but eventually Nukeduck gets the kill. And Origen, 12 minutes in, 2-0 up, and with a 1,000 gold lead as well.
And most importantly, the 2 kills here are on the mid laner and the AD carry. So let's watch this again in the bot side of the map. Upset is by himself, playing really far forward, getting greedy for that CS. But the catch potential here from Origen
disgusting.
with that Kalista ulti plus Alistar combo, I mean, it's an Ez, right? He stands really far away to last hit with Q. He's got his jump, he had his flash, and he still can't survive. Like, yeah, I mean, that is a pretty sick combo coming through from Origen, and they're rewarded with a kill onto their Kalista. Very important one.
And then Abadage, I think, just went too far after going for that mid lane dive and was caught out. Good flank from Mythy, because he came up from the bottom lane to actually catch the Schalke mid laner out of position. Momentum looking to steal away this red, we'll get it. That's a little bit of an advantage for him, but nothing too miraculous. And now that Origen have sort of stepped on the gas a little bit, I want to see them keep doing it.
Yeah,
they've got to keep making the same play.
They have to keep going, and right now lane phase doesn't look like it's going to end particularly anytime soon. Sometimes you see teams go for a lane swap in the top side just as a surprise, go for a gank, and then maybe go for that first bar tower. But that usually only happens if you think you're in a good position to get the plates, or, like I mentioned, actually kill the tower itself. So right now we probably won't be seeing much of that. But having said that, Ignar is roaming to the mid lane. Upset as well is also leaving bot as well. So has he learned his lesson, or is he going for a cheeky little roam?
There's still no summoners on Nukeduck, right? So you can look for that gank in the mid lane, especially since Abadage has the ult and has the flash. But you look at the vision control still for Origen around this mid lane, totally covered. Right? Control ward here, ward across the wall, go down towards the bottom side as well. Control ward here, ward across the wall. Like, they know that Nukeduck could be targeted out, and actually the fight is happening on the top side of the map. Cold misses the Glacial Prism.
Yeah, and that's a big one to lose in the early stages of the game right here. That is a high impact ultimate you definitely don't want to waste. Ignite here is sniffing about.
It's danger pings.
Yeah, he's suspicious.
Oh, Alfari can get this. Yeah, Slicing Maelstrom just comes out. Odomome he's stunned up for a year. Flashes away. Alfari doesn't have the chase potential because Memento, as you say, was on his way up. Alfari not wanting to chase into that fog of war. But I do actually like bringing the Kalista up here. If you can, alongside the Yasuo, so they move Kalista to mid, because you can secure the Rift out. Mythy jumps in. Very brave move from him, but the Alistar does do a lot of damage. Right. Going down, Mythy secures it. Support all combat. Abadage actually locked up as well, just gets away with the Glacial Path, and this is good from Origen. They keep upping the tempo. They move their AD carry down towards this middle lane, and Upset Ignite actually might have enough damage to take the first tower of the game if we don't see a bit more proactivity from Origen.
But Herald will most likely go down as well here for Origen, so at the very least, they will most likely trade towers at this point. And Origen are happy with doing this. You know, they got that kill. The downside to this is that Mythy used both summoners, and it was a pure solo kill. No assist for anyone else on the squad. And with Cole picking up this Herald here, we're going to get a cheeky little reset, and then we'll see as a team, do they group up and use this Herald somewhere? Or are they just going to go and perhaps, similar to what happened last time, stick someone in that mid lane and go for a multiple lane threat?
Here you see Alfari going for the flash slicing Maelstrom play. Thought he could take Odomame down quickly enough, but you can't go into Fog of War if you don't have the vision. And Mythy's like, okay, I've got you, Alfari.
Headbutts to the minion here. Nope, just flashes in.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he'd headbutt and then Q flash.
That is a cool combo.
But nah.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. Oh, Abadage actually took a bit of damage as he teleported away, but not so much that it cost him his life.
That was extremely close with him being able to reactivate that Glacial Path. He almost just got comboed down there and locked down, and he would have died too. We did see the mid lane fall here. Origen able to break that one, take that one down and break open the map. So mid lane is always the most important tower you want to take down because it is obviously in the center of the map. Oh, there's a Herald.
Momentum's going to go for it. Oh, he has the channel. He gets it. I believe with the Hexagon made him, he stops it because it silences you for a second. Memento gets into the realm warp. Are they going to lock him up in time? They get the stun off. That's one. Maybe they even go for the dive because Glacial Prison hits. And Odo not long for the rift. Double kill across towards Nukeduck.
And that is the power of the Yasuo pick, and Nukeduck especially is a very good Yasuo player, but you have the strength in that 2v2. This is the versatility as well of the Sejuani, not just about the protections and the engages, but also very good at just doing standard jungle stuff, like fighting enemy teams. So really strong 2v2, gets 2 kills. You know what, I think that also lightens it up a little bit as far as Origen, the sadness that Origen feeling about losing the Herald.
Yeah.
Getting 2 kills,
You're going to get the tower anyway. Right? Like
exactly. I think that makes it a little bit easier.
And it's always about Cole playing around the vision there, right? He's on a control ward as he comes in. Yes, he puts the Rift Tower down and Memento spots him, but then the ability to react, the ability to get there quickly and get the kill is just absolutely paramount for Origen.
So this is a really interesting interaction. I don't know whether we're going to get a replay and see this at all, but what happened with the Rift Herald? Because I didn't know. They missed the E, right? Memento missed his hook shot, which is the CC. You need hard CC to break the Herald.
So Hextech Ultimatum,
does it silence you?
As far as I know, when it's cast, silences you for a split second.
That's
which
crazy.
Is why it cancels the Rift Tower.
Interesting. I mean, if that is the case, then yeah, that explains it. If not, then Cole just cancelled it by himself.
I mean, if you keep talking for a second,
Go look it up.
Make sure that's the
I'm good
case.
at talking rubbish, mate. That's what I'm here for, so I can definitely fill some time. Either way, if this Herald gets put down or doesn't get put down, Origen are most likely going to get this tower here. They win the 2v2, and they get 2 kills over to Nukeduck as well. So something that goes a little bit understated when you look at the scoreboard is how many kills does this team have, how many kills does that team has. You can see a number, it might be bigger than the other one, but most importantly is who has the kills? Where do those kills go over to? And as far as Origen is concerned right now, those kills are on their perfect targets. We saw Patrick get a kill earlier on into the game. We saw Nukeduck get one earlier, and now he's just got even more. So they're set up to be in a really, really good position here, especially when they're running it into Schalke's team comp of that Rise split push. If you want to have Nukeduck beat him, then having him have 3 kills, you know what? I think that's pretty decent.
Definitely works out pretty well for you. And now, of course, I explored my mind palace, my knowledge dungeon that I have in my head.
Yes.
And it cancels channels. Cancels channels. And
really?
Rift Herald is a channeled ability.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So Memento.
Channeling.
Notice this here. You can see the channeling. Doesn't hit the E. And then it's like, oh, I'm a little bit short. Hextech Ultimatum cancels the channel.
It says silence for a split second above Cole's nameplate there. So yeah, that's what happens. Mystery solved. Didn't even need Detective Vidius here for that one.
We call him Plagueis at the moment because he's still sick. But so right there, it looks like the stun lands just before the Realm Warp comes out, which is why we don't see the follow-up. But we will just make sure that everything was A-OK with those interactions before we get on further in the game. I want to talk a little bit about some of the expectations we set up for these teams in picks and bans. Because we talked about Origen, we said they're a level 6 comp, or they're an ultimate-based comp, and they played well around that. You know, we're seeing them 5 kills up at the moment, about 1,000 gold lead. But where do they go next? What's the next invention, next step for them?
Well, I think if you'd asked me that question like 30 seconds ago, game time, then it would have been a different answer to what I'm going to say now, which is Nukeduck now has become a huge win condition for your team. Because you can just sit him in the side lane, and who is going to match him, who is going to beat him at this point? Lysandra is much more of a team player as the game goes on. Very strong champion, which is why she's such high priority in draft very often. But she's not going to be able to 1v1 Nukeduck. Nukeduck is going to have permanent pressure against her. And Ryze is much more of the style of champion that you want to stick in that side lane, that you want to have match the split push, that you want to have like just pushing minion waves down and going up against strong enemy split pushes. But again, if Ryze is sitting at 0-1-0 and Nukeduck is here sitting at 3-0, let's not forget, last thing, then you can talk, mate.
Okay.
He can itemize very efficiently into a Hex Drinker if he fancies it. Or like Mertreds or whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's already got Zachary, so ignore that one. But if you have AP mid and AP top, then that's good enough justification.
And it gets the Ezreal as well. Right? Ezreal does magic damage as well. So it works across the board. Currently sitting at the Phantom Dancer and a pickaxe. Expect him to go back and get BF still towards that Infinity Edge. I just want to inform you guys about the pause. The referees were investigating a issue related to the Realm Warp. They've determined it's normal behavior, and we should be getting back on into the game in just a second. So hopefully we'll be jumping back on into the action. Okay, so we've talked about Origen. We talked about the fact they can split push now with Nukeduck. Great stuff. Good stuff, Origen. Schalke, on the other hand, usually a much stronger early game team than this, have seemed to struggle a little bit at shutting down Origen's plays. Where do they go next?
Well, even when Schalke were winning games, I think on average their goal difference of 15 is not even 1,000. It's not that high. It's not that significant. They're very good at like 20 minutes plus, and that's where they win their games. They set themselves up in that early game. They don't explode and they don't take over the game in the early, but they're still they set themselves up to have success later on.
Okay.
So at this point, Schalke is not used to being 2,000 goal behind, but you can't write them out just because, firstly, the caliber of the team. It's a very good team. And secondly, their picks are good as the game goes on. So, upset on this Ezreal, we look to him to be the one to kind of put the team on his back in this game, and for Schalke to play around that.
And we'll keep our eyes on upsets Ezreal, wearing the footballer skin, which I think is only an apt considering he plays for Schalke and Fear.
Actually, it does look very Schalke, doesn't it?
This is the Schalke skin, okay?
Yeah.
They may never win Worlds, but upset's like, I've got my own skin already, guys.
You're setting their expectations very... Don't let me hear you say that.
I said May. Give me some
okay.
credit here. G2 may never win Worlds, but we all know they're winning this year. It's in Europe. Paris for the finals. G2 taking it home. Or Schalke, obviously. G2 Schalke finals.
What a story Fnatic won it, though.
That would be an incredible story. That would be an incredible story. Okay, so we know that Schalke needs to scale just a little bit more. We're sitting at Seraph's, building up on Odoamne. Protobelt into looks to be a Zhonya's for Abadage. 2 items on the Ezreal, which is always good. But soon you'll start to see Patrick get towards that Ginsu. Soon you'll see an Infinity Edge from Nukeduck as well. And if Origen can just keep up the tempo, keep up the pace, maybe look for a play around the Ocean Dragon or around the Baron in a couple of minutes, you have to think they're in a very good position to succeed.
And this is the thing, is that for Origen, they're going to look to pick up all of these objectives, especially those dragons. And if Schalke wants to contest, obviously they then have to walk up to Origen.
Catch is cold, but maybe not how we wanted to catch him. Odoamne almost killed by Nukeduck. Nukeduck flashes forward for it. Ignite now underneath the tower, but Mithy can just tank that one up for days. It's a very dead Pike. Origen 7 kills to 0 up. Absolutely decimating Schalke 05.
And we mentioned it, Nukeduck at this point is just too strong. Odoamne is not able to go at 1v1, not able to go toe-to-toe, and Nukeduck actually basically picked up a solo kill there. In fact, it was better than a solo kill because Ignite tried to stop him, and he couldn't.
Yeah.
Origen swarming their way in as well on the back of that to pick up that second kill, and it's just like, this is now really hard. If you're Schalke, this is actually really tough because these fights aren't really meant to happen yet. They're meant to happen around like the Baron area or the Dragons or whatever you want to contest. And Origen's meant to be able to find the windows and just get like a good team fight engage with the Kalista ulti or the Kennen TP flank or something like that. Honestly, this is what Origen wants to happen, but Schalke are just opening the door and saying, oh yeah, please come in. Oh, you got dirty boots. So that doesn't matter. Keep your shoes on.
Tread the mud through the carpet.
That's fine. It's not happening for him.
No. No, they're struggling a lot, and I think a lot of that has to come off, you know, those couple of bad plays up towards the top lane. Very good ganks, of course, from Origen, but what we've seen from Origen here is the combination of Cold and Nukeduck can be absolutely devastating, right? Yep. This is what we expected from them at the start of the split, and they're starting to step into their own. You have to remember, like, coming in today, everyone's putting Schalke up there just beneath G2. For Origen to come out with such a clean performance so far, that is a very good sign for them as a team and as an organization.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Origen looking to get into playoffs, if we can use the P word in week 4.
You can use the P word.
Then, I mean, this isn't even a team that you necessarily need to beat.
Yeah.
You don't have to beat one of the top 2 teams in the league. You just
beat the teams below you.
Yeah, exactly. Beat the teams below you and the people who might be looking to squeeze into those playoff spots. But so if they can pick up a team winning against Schalke, I mean, for me, that just completely kind of throws up in the air just how good are Origen. Because individually we know they're very talented players. Just the names themselves like speak volumes. They haven't been able to find it so far in the LEC, and you know this could be that turnaround point for them.
And definitely could. So 20 minutes in, 4,000 gold lead for Origen. It actually looks like it's QSS second for Patrick here, so just trying to give himself a little bit more safety. Nukeduck, of course, the key carry for that Origen lineup, but Schalke have been able to slow down the game just a tad. Obviously, very hard to break into that tier 2 of turrets, so Origen will need to set up strong vision, push forward a little bit, reset, then set up the vision again before they can really make any more plays.
Yeah, and Naren Basher, Big Purple Worm over here, is obviously going to be the key ticket for Origen to be able to break into the base of Schalke.
There's a blast going there. Malphite trying to get away. The flash in, Hexagol made him. Malphite caught out. Doesn't have a stopwatch, has the Rylai's with the slow, but Alphari is done. Dunked by Ignar. Schalke find a pick.
There's a very late flash there by Alphari, who didn't respect the memento, kind of chain CC there, where he comes flying in from 1,000 miles away, and then hook shot, flash, ultimate, and you're locked down and you're screwed. So Alfari needs to flash a little bit early there, but still good pick from Schalke. That is the power of that Camille pick especially. And we'll see, like this, honestly right now all that does is it just kind of pauses what Origen wanted to do. Yep. Schalke's need a lot more to find success in this game. But you know, if you want to take the game to late because you're really not doing very well right now, then those are the kind of plays you need to look for.
It's like battlefield medicine. All you want to do is pause the bleeding until you can get back somewhere safe. And as soon as you're back somewhere safe, that's when you can look to try and revitalize the patient and bring them back.
Well, there you go. Was that your expertise? When
no, I was orthopedics and pediatrics, so bones and children. Yeah, it was good fun actually. The things you can do to children's bones are actually incredible. Like you can make children taller by breaking their bones and just splitting them apart, and then they just grow. It's amazing.
Well, okay. Well, you're not a doctor anymore, and I'm starting to see why every day. Let's go back to the.
That's actual medicine, okay?
The way you put it did not sound very.
It's actual medicine.
Whatever. Let's move on, shall we?
Okay.
League of Legends, video game. That's what we're casting right now. I think, at least.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, right. I think this is a bit of a lull in the game because. It's the what's the best word to describe this? Boring is completely not the right word for it, okay? But it's the more behind the scenes kind of like methodical
this is the preparation.
setting up. Yeah,
it's the preparation portion of the game.
Yeah, exactly. This is the preparation for Origen where they're thinking, okay, let's get the side waves in a good position. Let's see if Schalke like give us anything if they make a mistake, because that would be great. It wouldn't be the first time this game that Schalke had done that. So let's get the side waves in a good position here. Let's leverage this advantage that we've gotten over the enemy team. And the fact that we are such a good teamfight comp as well, if we do find someone, you know, we get that Mythi engage, we get that follow-up from Alfari, although he's in topside without his TP. But in theory, you know...
Oh, I love this. Cold actually baiting for Ignar there. They knew there was a ward in the bush, and they just didn't clear it out to make Schalke think they were safe. Cold steps up, Ignar lands the hook, gets away. But I really like the idea from Origen.
But again, Pyke is an extremely slippery champion. If Ignar was playing his Blitzcrank here, then that would have been a very easy kill. But Cold probably should have thrown out his ultimate there just to lock down the Pyke, but either way, just going to walk away from that one, and Alfari chasing down Abadaga. The rest of his team is on the way, and we'll see whether or not... There it is!
Turns it straight on towards Ignar with the Glacial Prison. That's a dead Pyke. Memento chased away as well, and now Origen probably just going to turn their eyes towards the blue buff, set up vision around the Baron as well.
And now this is extremely difficult, because let's not forget that even though your support is arguably your weakest member as far as individual strength goes, he is your primary warder. So how do you get vision in this situation when your ward bot is dead? It's very difficult to do so.
Two teleports coming in from Schalke. Memento jumps towards the back of the pit, but the slicing maelstrom locked him up. Baron already down, secured. Memento falls as well. Abadaga goes into the Glacial Tomb, and we'll get locked up. Cole just going to chase him across the wall here, looking for that blast cone knock away. Patrick can't quite find the jump, and Abadaga will escape. They don't really care about him. They have the Baron. That's all they need. They'll let the Lissandra escape for the time being.
And this is exactly it. Origen, if they're looking to accelerate this game right here and end it before Schalke comes online, then they need to take this Baron and they need to use this to break into the enemy base. That's what they've got. Let's see if we can do it. We're jumping into the replay here of how this pick happened in the first place. It's almost a rinse and repeat of what Origen were trying to do in the bot side of the map. But this time around, Cold actually uses his ultimate as the primary engage here. And whereas Pyke is a very slippery champion, if he can't proc his aftershock because he's stunned down and he can't use his abilities, then he's very easy to kill. And the rest of this, just Schalke thinking, you know what? We don't want to give away this Baron.
Yeah.
It's bad if the enemy team gets Baron. That was
really bad.
That was the correct thought. But what actually happened was not the correct execution.
Trying to go into a Baron when you don't have vision, because Origen have taken it away pretty well.
Rock and a hard place.
Yeah, definitely a very difficult situation to be in, and Origen have forced Schalke back time and time again. Look at how strong they are at the moment. 3 items on the Yasuo. You've got a 2-0 2-Sejuani with the Gargoyles. You've got Ginsu's finished on Kalista as well. Origen are putting on a clinic right now.
Yeah, Origen are just looking night and day, really, from the criticisms we had of them earlier on into the split. And this is a team, you know, that maybe takes a little bit while to gel. We can't all be the Shout. Well, probably can't say that anymore, can I? But you can't all be teams that implode the roster and then come together anew and just instantly click. And what I'm really impressed by this game especially is Cold was able to set up Nuke Duck, and Nuke Duck has just proven why we kind of killed the whole year of the Duck meme last year. Because he is a very good player, you know, when he's on form, he's a top 3 mid in EU.
Yep.
And Origen have picked up this guy, hasn't quite been able to grow into his own skin yet. And in this game, He's on a high agency pick and he's making it happen.
Definitely is. I think Alfari has to be mentioned as well. We talked about the top lane matchup. It hasn't really played out Alfari into Odo. It's more been Odo into Nukeduck this game, but still had a much more consistent performance than he had in weeks 1 through 3. Looking much more like the Alfari we know of old. Now, Inhibitor Tower target in the mid lane. Glacial Prison lands once again onto Ignar, just forcing him away. Mithy underneath the tower, but already that's fallen. Puts at the wind wall just to block out any Schalke aggression. Mithy with the engage. Last breath comes out, and Memento is down. Great stuff from Origen once again to find the pick, and now they can just push towards this Inhibitor. Need to be a little bit defensive because you still have the Frozen Tomb. You still have the pick potential of a death from below. Nukeduck clearing out the wards now, clearing out the minions in this bottom lane. Patrick going in, there's the Fate's Call. Just pushes Schalke back once again, and Origen will open up that second Inhibitor tower alongside the Inhibitor.
This is extremely smart play by Origen. They're not overforcing their hand here. They're throwing out ultimates using cooldowns, but not dedicating where they don't need to, just to zone away Schalke so that they can take what they want, which isn't Schalke's life bars. It's the inhibitors in the base, and they're able to achieve that. Patrick, oh no, he's
What is it with blast cones in the LEC? Like, what is it? We saw it yesterday with Noscare knocking Chachi into the pit. We saw it last week with Kobe getting killed by one.
G2XL, remember that one?
G2XL. Oh, there's something about the blast cone.
Just very spicy cones.
It's fine though. Patrick survives. Doesn't put him too out of position, and Origen reset. 4 dragons in their back pockets. A monumental 7,500 gold lead as well.
And what this does as well by picking up 4 dragons is it gives you another win condition if the game does go later on, which is where we said before, where Schalke would want the game to go. Now you can just pick up El Dragon, and you've got 4 dragons already. And it's just like, yeah, this is really tough now for Schalke. And I think going into this game, the expectations were that Schalke would just pick it up. You know, that we would see Deficio cry in backstage and Quickshot would be happy.
Well, but Deficio will be the only one laughing after this, because every single caster and analyst and Twitter and StatSpot predicted that Schalke would win.
Ooh.
It's the curse of the StatSpot.
What do we know?
No, not much. I'm sitting at 22 predictions, so I really don't know that much. Realm Warp coming in here. Trying to catch Nukeduck out. Oh! Memento with the flash chase, has the Hexagon Maiden Wall, put Nukeduck in the box. Ignar there as well, but Upset has to jump across the wall to follow up. Nukeduck almost takes down one, but the death from below will secure him. However, what have you lost for it? Inhibitor Tower is going to go down in this top lane as Schalke retreat. Teleport's coming in. Upset trying to join the fight. There is the Inhibitor, but they're not going to go for it completely. Glacial Prism lands just to distract Abaddage, so he cannot jump on towards that Origen backline.
Origen need to back away from this one. They have lost Nukeduck, who is their primary carry so far. Schalke, if they want to take this one, it's 4v5.
It's the perfect time to fight. Mithy didn't really want to back away. He was running back in, as you said, they wanted to retreat. Ignar misses the hook. Mithy gets a jump onto Odo Omne. Cold there as well. Alfari still has the ultimate if he wants to go in. Looking for it. There's the lightning rush. Hasn't used the ult yet, though. Abaddage pops the Frozen 2. Mithy gets one. That's Odo Omne down. Now Alfari jumps forward with the proto belt. And Memento falls as well. And Upset's trying to do what he can on the back line, but he gets locked up in the slicing Maelstrom. Ignar jumps back towards the bounded Inhibitor falls. And Origen are knocking on the door of Schalke's base.
This was the best chance for Schalke to turn this game around and win a team fight, and instead they come out losers of the fight and maybe, quite possibly, definitely, the game.
What a performance from Origen, put Schalke right back in their place, and they seem to have found their form. Week 4 of the LEC, Origen pick up their 4th win.
Not only did they win this game, but the fashion in which they did so gives you a lot of hope moving forward as an Origen fan. Schalke are no easy opponent. And really, it's what we were expecting out of Origen coming into the season. Before anyone had played on stage, when you just look at the names on the rosters and you think, yeah, these guys are good players. They had good performances last year. This is a team that can perform.
I think this performance was the performance, as you say, that everyone expected the team to have. Like, coming into the split, you looked at the roster, you said Nukeduck, Cole, Mithy, Patrick, and Alfari in the top lane. And you thought, yeah, they're going to perform. You know, they're going to be a strong team from the get-go. And now we're actually starting to see it really coming to effect.
Origen in this game as well.
Origen!
What I'm really impressed with Mithy is I just want to give him a cheeky shout out as well, because, you know, we touched, you said this as well with Mickey, where supports kind of go a bit underloved.
Yeah.
So if I can give a little bit of love to Mithy's, he has a tendency of going in Yeah, and no one really follows him. It doesn't matter whether he's got his team around him to support him up. He'll just go in anyway. He sees the opportunity, and maybe that's a lack of communication, and maybe his team doesn't have full confidence in him. It was a problem that plagued him when he was over in North America. But there are a lot of engages this game. Mythic didn't seem to change as much himself, but it's like as a team, when Mithy makes these plays, his team was there to follow up.
The coordination was there.
Absolutely.
So much better from the Mithy didn't even die, nor did Patrick. Nukeduck only with that final death at the end.
Yeah, and Alfari was, throughout most of the game, was a dirty inner on their team.
Yeah.
I know, I'm reporting.
The whole one death
Yeah.
that he had. I want to...